Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Good Enough Chats. Today, I'm joined by David, who will introduce himself very shortly. My name is Dan Boucher, by the way, and I just wanted to take a quick second to explain, for the benefit of anybody who hasn't seen one of these shows before, what the show's all about and how it's structured, because all of that stuff matters, I think. So, in essence, this is about conversations that help to destigmatize men's mental health. And each episode, I have a different guest who is kindly coming forward to share their lived experiences of mental health. Um, they know what questions are coming before we hit the record button because it's the same 5 questions every single time. So that means that any guest can prepare as much as they want to for that. Although I should stress that none of the answers are scripted. And as a result of that, I have got no idea what the answers are going to be. So, whilst there are 5 questions to structure the conversation, if there are things that I think are worth kind of exploring that come from their answers, I'll add some additional questions and then we'll take it down that route. One other thing I just wanted to stress that's really important is if at any point in time David feels like I'm kind of going down a route that he doesn't really want to talk about, all he's got to do is say stop, and then we'll get back onto the structure of it all. So as much as possible, David as the guest has the kind of the safety, the psychological security of knowing that he's in control of where the conversation goes. Anyway, opening gambit and rambling done. David, please could you introduce yourself to the guests?
Hey Dan, yeah, good morning. My name is David Gill. I'm 46 years of age. Currently living in New York, a Cornishman who's found himself over in the Big Apple via various different countries and various means. At the moment, what do I do for a living? I am currently looking for a new job here in New York. Interesting experience. It's got its ups and downs. Doing a lot of writing and yeah, just trying to piece things together, and it's been interesting. It's a great city for that, but daunting. So that's where I am at the moment, Dan.
Awesome. And two things to say at this point. Number one is David is the first guest that we've had on the show that is overseas. So that's quite exciting. I'm nerding out about that. I know you're an Englishman in New York, but you're still in New York, so I'll take that. And yeah, the other thing is it's great to actually be able to hear David speak clearly for the first time as well, because we on our pre-show call, we've been battling with Wi-Fi in coffee houses and the background noises of grinders and things like that, haven't we?
Oh, crumbs, yes, yeah. I've got one little favorite coffee shop, and it's always quiet. But that day, they just decided to put on the grinders, the blenders, they crank the music up, and it's normally not busy. But that day, there seemed to be hundreds of students coming in. So, yeah, that was quite good. And as you say, like in Englishman in New York, I get that tune from Sting in my head every time I walk down Fifth Avenue. It's just, I don't know what it is. I just sit there and just come up with that, and it's just like, yeah, it's kind of cool. And it's a nice reminder. It's a nice reminder.
I'd said to myself, don't go down the Englishman in New York route, but straight
Yeah, it's like
away.
going Cornishman in New York, and just yeah, lyrics just trapped. I don't know. It is just that one street. There's so many other songs about New York, but that one just gets to me on that, and it's like, it's kind of cool.
Every time, every time. Awesome. Right. David, question number
Yeah.
one is, as always, why are you here today? What has got you to the point where you are opening up and talking about your lived experience of mental health with us today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've sort of, as you said, gone through, read it, tried to prepare things, and it's just like, right. I must admit, I've listened to several of the other podcasts that you've done, and I've chatted with mates, and we realize we're all kind of in the same boat. I don't know, definitely from my perspective, we always had the stiff British upper lip in our family. My family was military, and my father was in the Air Force. we never talked about issues or problems. Everything got brushed under the carpet. And I think I've done that for a lot of years. I initially started my career in life sort of I wanted to be a army officer, and I ended up dislocating a knee before I got to Sandhurst, and I dropped out. So I've always got that little bit of guilt of never fulfilling so like a child had ambition. But then I started leading expeditions. That was my ultimate goal. I wanted to go to the British Army, get that ticked off, and I wanted to go and explore the world. So I saw that as my natural sort of career trajectory. And instead, I ended up clearing landmines. I got into bomb disposal of landmines as a civilian uh, for an organization called the Halo Trust. And I spent several years overseas. And I must admit, there was times during that job where a lot of things got sort of compounded. We were doing great work, but at the same time, I was away from friends and family for a long, long time in very different cultures. And it was a lonely kind of existence. And it was cramming everything into short bursts of leave, coming home, catching up with friends, and just seeing how their lives progressed. And I was just tuck things in the back of my mind, just going, all right, this is normal. This is a normal way to live. And after working with Halo, I went off to Afghanistan for a year, uh, back in about 2008, 2009 ish. And we gained sort of various things over there, and then breakdown of a relationship. It all slowly just kept compounding and compounding. And very, as I said, growing up in a military family and then all these environments, and even at university, it was a very much sort of like that stiff upper lip, man up kind of culture where that's what you do. You just bottle things up, you just repress things. And it got to a point where I couldn't. I was noticing massive changes in me. My friends and my family noticed it. And it's been agonizing at times. And got some good friends that I chat to. And we try to work through sort of various problems and issues. And what I've sort of perceived as normality in my life is far from it at times. And I know it's had drastic effects on my relationships. It's had drastic effects on my health, both mentally and physically. And I, I think we need to remove that whole sort of don't talk about things. I think that is possibly one of the hardest things for us men to do. And also being honest with ourselves and admitting when things are a struggle, and just forcing your way through like a bull in a china shop isn't really the best answer. It might seem good at the short term, but long term it has drastic effects. So yeah, I just I think we just need to be open, and I love what you're encouraging with this. I think it's incredibly important to also know that you're not just on your own. But I must admit also, it's not a sign of weakness. And that I think is one of the hardest things to address. It's just like with mental difficulties or just mental problems, it's like any other sort of illness or injury that can't be seen. It's still there. It manifests, and yeah, if you need the right people to talk to, go and find them. Just seek them out. Don't wait for things to become too overwhelming and too late. So yeah, always there's always something positive in a day. There's always something to take pleasure from, and no matter how dark and overwhelming it can get. So yeah, I appreciate you getting these talks up and going. So Dan, you're doing something amazing, mate.
I think you and I have a very sort of top level. You've kind of explained some of the things that you have experienced and things that you've been through. We'll come on to that in one of the later questions. But I really appreciate you coming forward and being willing and able to do this as well. I know that these kind of discussions are. I've already had enough of these conversations to know that each story has unique dimensions, but they're not, unique to the point that they are exclusive. There are common themes that come
Yeah,
through these stories that mean that to certain people they're going to resonate, and then being able to hear something like this when they need to hear it, I think could be really, really important to them.
yeah.
Um,
No, I'm listening to some of the previous guests. It's just like, yeah, there's certain things resonate, and it's just like, right. As a culture, how do we change those perceptions, and how do we build upon it for everybody to be healthier?
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. So you've talked about that's like the sort of the helicopter view of the why. So let's stepping back from that just a little bit. How have you been this past week?
It's been an interesting week on various different levels. Last week, I applied to join the Explorers Club here in New York. So, like the Royal Geographical Society, it's one of those things that I anticipated and enjoyed sort of doing. So last week, I got sort of like official notification that I'm now a member of the Explorers Club here. So
What
that's
what
been
does that mean for Luddites like me, Luddites,
okay.
people in the dark that don't do for me, an expedition is just popping
Yeah.
up the road to walk the dog.
Yeah, well, the Explorers Club's been going for about 118 years, and it was initially sort of set up to expand knowledge of different areas of exploration in the world. So whether it was going down to the South Pole, the North Pole, and the Explorers Club kind of encourages um, scientific research, doing journeys for purpose, that kind of thing. So it's an old club here in New York. It's in a beautiful building off of actually just about 2 avenues away from Fifth Avenue. So when I walk there, I get sting in my head. And then you walk in, and it's like an old British club. There's all these old mementos from crumbs. There's was I was looking at it just the other day. The flag planted on Everest from sorry, Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, and members of being guys, say like the Apollo astronauts, first guys in space. So members of being the first of the deepest parts of the Earth, the Mariana Trench, up to space, all to all
Wow.
sort of farthest reaches. And I must say, I was looking to I love conversations about exploration. And to me, it was getting involved with those conversations again. I've had a bit of a break from them, and it's fantastic, fantastic place. So yeah, you had to put in an application, get two sponsors to support your journey into it. And when I got there on Friday, I met the president of the club, and he was like, "Welcome to your home. Welcome home. This is your club. This is your place. These are your people." And it felt great. I feel it's somewhere you can chat, you can develop ideas, and great things have come out from these explorations, like different medicines, different knowledge of different species. Elon Musk is a member, so the chair that he went up into space is sat there. There's gloves from various astronauts. There's so much history, so much stories that it was just fascinating. And I ended up, I went over, this is going to sound even more sort of absurd. I went over to meet a British guy who spent 6 years walking the length of the Amazon, a guy called Pete Casey.
Right?
Yeah,
As you do.
as you do. And Pete's amazing. He's self-confessed. He's a builder from Crawley, had never had any military experience and never done any big sort of trips like this. And he put his whole soul into this trip, and it took him 6 years. COVID thrown in there. There was a whole global shutdown, and he's in this village in the middle of the jungle. And it was great. I spent Friday night chatting with him, and then met up with him on Saturday for coffee, and we walked around Central Park. And it's just those kind of experiences that I love and thrive upon. And yeah, so that was a massive highlight of last week. Things other things are going great. Putting in job applications, getting the Monday rejections of automated emails, or with what an interesting background. However, how does this relate to this job? And it's like there's frustrations.
Yeah,
So massive highs, massive lows. Um, so I live in New York, and my I've got my two sisters and my mother that's still back in the UK. And my mother's getting old. We had some big health issues with her over the last year or so. And there's little things that I don't know, you just can't control. And it's that again, within our family, it's like that, yeah, everything's going well. When you know it's not really, and there's knowing that I just can't financially at the moment just jump on a plane and go and wave a magic wand and make everything better. So it's that whole ups and downs. Um, it's been a beautiful sunny week, so strolled around New York in the sunshine with the dogs, and it's been good. It highs and lows, mate. But on the whole, as, as we sort of said, you can control what you can control, and learn to learn to live knowing that you can't control everything.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been a very, I think it's stoicism. It's just being very realistic about the week. So yeah, good highs and good lows.
yeah,
And I'd like it to be more even rather than
yeah.
massive highs, massive lows. So
I've
that's
I've
something I'm trying.
I've said this on a few of these chats now, but I kind of think of the sort of the frequency of your mood on a graph, and you've got here is the it's kind of contentment range. Here is the high, here is the low, and I think what tends to happen is people are convinced that they should be up here all the time,
Yeah.
when the reality is they need to be in this little
Yes.
bar here and focus on that because that
Yeah.
one that's real and
Yep.
it's it's a sustainable way to behave as well. And there will be fluctuations. There'll be
Yes.
the incredible moments. There'll be awful moments. But if you've got that for most of the time, your overall kind of well-being is
Yeah.
going to be considerably better than if you're striving for something that's completely unobtainable or you are not able to see the wood for the trees and you're right at the trough, at the
Yes.
bottom.
And
Um,
as you say, it's trying to get to that median. And I don't know if that's attainable. It would be lovely. And it would just be, I think life would tick on very well with that.
mm,
And yeah, I'm still trying to work out my way of being able to do that. But
mm,
it, I find it helps having good conversations. Every day I pick up the phone and I chat to my sister, my mother, my friends, and just try to reduce over those massive peaks to
mm,
that medium, or try and realize that the lows can be evened out. So it's it is hard. Uh, for me personally, I find I get up at 5 in the morning. By 5:30, I'm out with the dog, and we do about 5 or 6 miles, which gives me the chance to sort of like start my day before breakfast, having got those endorphins. Uh, I walk alongside the River Hudson, and I must admit I like it at that time in the morning because there's less people.
yeah,
There's just me, my thoughts, and looking at the nature. And it's surprising, even in a big city, just even having those trees, watching the buds come out, the flowers come up, and just that changing tide of the river makes things a little bit easier. And then also sort of go through various emails and texts that I've got and try and formulate better answers rather than letting the that moment of mm, come in.
yeah,
Uh, I must admit, I'm not brilliant at that at times. I do kind of feel the red mist descend a little bit, and I try to try to curb that.
mm,
But yeah, that little bit of time in the mornings, just getting out and just exercising a little bit, I think's helped. It's yeah, it to me that's a good start to the day. Get back, have a coffee, and then tackle what's coming for the rest of the day.
yeah.
Uh, So yeah, I'd encourage, if people can, just get up and don't put off going out because it's raining. Just be consistent with yourself. And if you're consistent, I think that puts in those, as you say, that gets rid of those, some of those troughs and some of those peaks. Just having
Yeah.
something that you can control on a daily basis, no matter what the elements are throwing at you, what anybody else is throwing at you. It's, if that's your time, it's the time that you choose to do what you want to do. And I went out this morning, so it's those peaks and troughs. I moved to New York just about a year ago, and my son lives in Texas, and it wasn't the most amicable divorce. It wasn't the most horrendous divorce. It was a divorce, and I I moved up here for a job, which unfortunately came crashing to an end. I learned a lot about insurance policy, auto insurance. If you think it's bad in the UK, try running 40 vans in the Bronx. It was a nightmare. We went from a $500,000 a year policy to over $1.5 million, and so the company couldn't sustain it. So I was, yeah, long story short, I was up and down to Texas once a month to see my son. But being currently out of work, that financial ability has been drastically reduced. So I've not been able to keep up with my commitment to my boy, and it hurts. That hurts hugely. And I got a series of messages from the ex-wife who's just triggered things, and it's just like there are certain things I can control. I can't control her feelings. I can't control the way she perceives things. I can control what I can, and I'm trying desperately not to get angry about things because I can't. It would do nobody any good. So yeah, it's, yeah, those morning walks. As I said, I set myself a goal now. Kind of started at about 30 miles a week. Now set a goal of 60 miles a week, and getting
Wow.
to, last week I did 55. So I've just got to up it and up it. In the same, I take the same time each morning, but just get a little bit faster. That's something I can. That's
Yeah.
one bit of control I feel I've got. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. That's good for me, I feel.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
That's an achievement. That is an achievement. Don't lose sight of the fact that that is an achievement as well, because there's always a habit or a risk rather that you can, once you've achieved it and you've done it consistently for a long time, that you think, well, that's nothing. You've
Yeah,
got to remember the journey that kind of got you to the point where you achieved it in the first place. So they go, okay, well, it wasn't nothing. Most people aren't doing that.
yeah,
That's the kind of the difference maker for me, is like being able to kind of reflect on that and go, well, actually, I'm quite pleased with that.
yes, yeah. And I must admit, I think I know I'm harsh on myself with various things. I overanalyze to a point where we were saying previous chats that self doubt, that imposter syndrome kicks in, that I'm not good enough. And it's your inner critic, and it's hard to silence that when you have trying to work out the direction you want to go in. And I must admit, it's the mileage in the morning is also important for me, because about 3 odd years ago, just after the divorce, I was down in Texas. I was miserable. I was working in a brewery. I wasn't eating healthily. I was obviously drinking too much, and I got to an awful stage in my physical health as well. I was in dark periods, and I sorry, I've gone very American. I got to about 265 pounds, which I think was 17 odd stone, very unhealthy. Um, I noticed I my body just wasn't right. I was not good. Eyesight was starting to go very fuzzy. You know when you're very tired and you're driving at night in the rain and all those lights kind of blur. My eyesight was doing that a lot. I was getting numbness in my fingers and toes. I was peeing constantly, constantly thirsty, and I just went, something's not right. And I didn't have medical insurance. I still don't. So it's like, right, we haven't got that wonderful thing like the National Health Service in the UK. We don't. That's not here in the US. And thankfully, my ex-wife's uncle was a doctor, so I popped along to see him, and it turns out my A1C, which is your blood sugar levels, should be at around about 5-ish. Mine was nearly 14, so almost treble what it should be. Cholesterol was ridiculous. Blood pressure, it was. I was on the edge of either a heart attack, a stroke, or a diabetic coma, and I was just struggling. And I had that realization that I've got to make drastic changes. And so I stopped drinking, I cut out carbs, I cut out meat, I bought a weights vest and a punch bag, and I'm living in this little crappy apartment, just beating the heck out of a punch bag. And I shared something like 60 odd pounds within 3 months. And I just focused on that. To the extent I pretty much blacked out everything else in life. Um, I, I just wanted to be there for my son, and mentally and physically. And it also meant cutting out a lot of the environment I was in, the people I was surrounded by, and changing what I wanted, not just being there. On, again, it's been tough. I've been racking my brains over whether I made the right decision to move to New York. And it was needed. I needed that break from that environment. Yeah. So sometimes difficult decisions are those, and you got to live with those repercussions. And sometimes you've got to be a little bit selfish, I feel, and take back control of what you can. Again, it comes back to what you can control and what you can't control. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be the best dad, even though I'm not there. And yeah, life's tough, Dan, but it is for everybody, and we just got to try and make the best of it.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah. I think being kind to yourself, you said, you just used the phrase be a little bit selfish. Um, there's a difference between being selfish and being, you know, prioritizing yourself to the extent that you need to be able to have the kind of best possible headspace to make the kind of decisions that are then going to be um, influential, I guess, for
yeah,
those that are nearest and dearest to you. And it sounds like you've made some of those big decisions, those big choices, and you've put it into action. And I think that kind of leads very nicely into the third question, which is how has your relationship with your mental health evolved? If you've talked about where you are, what you're trying to put into practice today, and
yeah.
you talked just then about the when you took the decision that you needed to move away from that environment, away from Texas up to New York, but in between, I guess well, hang on a minute, backpedal down.
Yeah.
When did you first notice that you were struggling? When was that kind of realization that the stiff British upper lip wasn't the thing that was going to get you through this?
Crumbs. Admittedly, and this again, I've been thinking about this since you sent through these questions. And if I'm entirely honest with myself, it's been about 10 odd years. Uh, Mozambique, crumbs. Goes back to sort of like environments that I worked in, and some of the experiences over there weren't the most pleasant. And I got back from Angola, and I was due to renew a contract, and I went back home to Cornwall, and I realised I couldn't get back on a plane, I couldn't take myself back to those environments. And so this is 20, oh gosh, 2010, 2011 ish.
Was
And
this doing more work in the
Yeah,
landmine clearance.
yeah. And I I must admit, I that stiff British upper lip just came collapsing down. And if I'm entirely honest with myself, I think I pretty much had a breakdown. Um, I went to see, I went to its counselor for one session and it just went, I can't, I wasn't ready for it. So I carried on with the bad habits, sorry, I've got builders in the next apartment. I could just hear drilling. I hope
We
it
we
doesn't.
we can hear a little bit of it, but I can
Okay.
still hear you really clearly.
And I wasn't prepared then to sort of like admit that I was struggling. So I just kept plugging on and not really addressing things. It's it was hard to sort of like admit that there was chinks in my own armor. Um, I also, oh, crumbs. Yeah. Another big one was my middle sister was diagnosed with schizophrenia. When I was just before I went overseas the first time, I actually ended up having to take my sister and get a section at the mental health institute. And I just those barriers of stigma of just going, this could this happen to me? Could what is going on? What is going on with my sister? And even now, 21 years later, we I still don't know. I don't understand mental health well enough because that fear is still there. Admitting that you don't know, admitting those fears, just then erodes confidence. It erodes your own self belief. And I've taken sort of time to realize that you need to have these conversations. You need to remove those barriers. As my sister's unwell, we're all bordering on this fragile little line, and it could happen to any one of us. And so to me, it's so how was my relationship with mental health evolved? Acceptance, I think, is needed. Education, definitely, and again, just pursuing things that you can control. I can't I can't invent that medicine that's going to help my sister, and it has taken me years. I can't change how my sister is. I can't change how anybody else is. I can only change who I am and what I can do. And so it's been long periods of reflection, long periods of introspection, too much probably overanalyzing myself, too many conversations with friends, and just realizing that you can't do things on your own. It's like building anything. You can't just be that one rock and expect the whole sort of community just to build from it. So I becoming more open within our family. Conversations are more open. There's no hiding things, and it it's it's difficult at times. It's that whole those ouch conversations, those okay, those realizations that things that I've done have probably not helped people. It hasn't helped me. It's the honesty. So I think as it developed or evolved, being more honest, being more open, and more accepting, and just trying to trying to keep even out those highs and lows, as we said, and just trying to keep an even keel.
What would you say? I, I, I don't know if this is an easy question to answer or not. What would you say is the difference between um, learning to accept something like that in principle and actually being able to believe that you've accepted it and it's okay? Because I'm not asking that question very eloquently. What I
But no,
mean
no,
is you can kind of you can accept something without necessarily then going on to try and alter or change
yeah.
how you're feeling, you're acting about something to actually bring that acceptance to life. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. It's a great question. And don't know if I've got an entirely good
But
answer.
no, but in your experience, that's
Yeah,
that's all I'm interested in. Your experience, has there been something like that for you?
it in a way, yes. So I hadn't been home in nearly 8 years, and so I went back in October to the UK. And I went. My sister Jacqueline and I we met. She lives in a sheltered accommodation, as like don't know what the best word for it is, a house looked after and all this kind of thing. And it was just hugs. We just hugged. She's my sister, and I love her to bits. Um, Accepting that that's the way she's gonna be, it is still hard. I still try to want to go. Okay, here's a magic cure for schizophrenia that can help people, can help everyone. But it's also just knowing that you can't control everything. Um, I find it I find it very hard being away from family at moments like this. And if I move back to the UK, yeah, I'd be closer. But what can actually change? She will still have her health problems. I still can't find that magic cure. And again, it's that balance. And I don't think I can keep everybody happy. I can't make other people happy, and it's not making me happy going down those roads. And so it's just like the accepting what I can and what I can't do. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that daily, Dan.
I mean, it's a lot. It's not just that it's a lot to process. It's there's a constant reminder, isn't there as
Yeah,
well? You're trying to wrap your head around something, and there is a constant reminder anytime you speak to your family that that's going on, and I guess sometimes that's in more the foreground than it is in the background for you as well, which is
yeah,
which is going to be incredibly difficult. Um, and I wanted to ask you about the work that you've done when you were in Angola, when you were in Afghanistan as well. How how you process that, because I can only begin to imagine some of the things that you would have seen, some of the situations that you would have been in as a direct result of your your expertise in
yeah,
clearing landmines. I mean, that's to someone like me, that's a completely alien world. And now
yeah,
here we are talking about, the importance of having open conversations about mental health together. In a million years, I didn't imagine that I would be talking to somebody that used to clear landmines for a living. But I can also immediately see, oh, hang a bit, there must be all kinds of things that cause challenges for somebody that's
yeah.
that's done that as well.
Well, the job as it is, it's actually quite an inherently safe and long, tedious process.
Mm,
Uh, but at the back of your mind, you've always got that knowledge that whatever you're doing that day, what you're approaching can be a very bad day at the office.
mm,
Um, and we're trained very well with that. And it's a lot of almost archaeology, but with explosions.
mm,
Um, but you mitigate that. To me, it was the problems I had was you'd be fully immersed in these environments and these different cultures and away from that network of people that you have at home. And that's where I started to struggle with things. Uh, I at one point stage I got badly electrocuted. It's all quite tedious stuff. I got badly electrocuted, got malaria, dysentery, and all those kind of things. But I just thought that was a normal environment. And it was every day. We've got people around the world, sort of like, say, the organization I work for, now got 13,000 men and women who go out every day to try and remove this problem. So it's, you got that. I felt that it's not a burden. It was a privilege to work in these environments, to try and do something to remove some of these issues that countries have had, that people have had, that are allowing children to get to school. So it was always that feeling of a greater good, that feeling of service. And it's a phenomenal uh, undertaking. But I just reached a point where I just hit my limit with it. And I, again, sort of in these conflict zones currently going on at the moment, you've got all these aid workers, you've got a lot of people who are trying to do the right thing and seeing scenes of devastation. You see them on the news, but then we're overwhelmed by those images from Ukraine, from Gaza, from Afghanistan, from you name the place. It's a lot to process, and I must admit, I don't think I decompressed well from it when I came home. There was no sort of, one day I stood in Kabul, the next day I was back in London, and it was just like, okay, what is going on? I felt my senses were overloaded, and I must admit, I try to mask things by drinking, by trying to put on that brave face, that persona that, I mean, inside I knew I was crumbling. And it was, so this is crumbs years back, and the soldiers coming back from those areas, there's been better, I feel now there's better understanding that these places and events, no matter whether it was massive combat or even just being in those stressful environments, it does have an effect on your psyche, upon the way you deal with things. And especially when you're in that shared environment, when you're suddenly on your own to your own thoughts, that's where I think it gets more difficult. And again, the culture of, you can't admit that you're weak, you can't admit that you're struggling. I always had a fear. So when I got back, I went and saw a therapist for one session, and then I just went, I don't want this on my medical record. This will stop me getting future jobs. This will, if you go and see a doctor, if you speak out about this, it's all that old stigmatism. So you just bottle up until it's like that pressure cooker, and it's, yeah, it's something I regret not doing. I feel that had I been more open with myself and others, I probably would have hopefully have changed some behavioral patterns. So yeah, it's I don't know. I sort of read and sort of see about all the different programs for veterans, and I think they should be more encouraged, not just for the guys and girls coming back from conflict zones, but within society. Anything is traumatic and can just live with you. And I think it's better just to get it out and fuck the consequences. People's perceptions of you, that's merely their perceptions. That's one thing I'm learning from, for me. It's like, okay, if that's what you want to believe about me, then that's up to you. That's not what I see. And yeah, it's just balancing that and just coming to terms with things. And yeah, if I could change things in the past, I would do, but you can't. Um, can I change what happens in the future? Yes, but it's got to be. I've got to want to change things, and I do. I've changed things, quite a lot of things, massively, but and it takes time. It's not one of these. At the moment, we live in that generation of sort of like instant gratification. Everything is here. You want food, boom, there's an app for that. It gets delivered. You want banking. We've removed so many opportunities for conversations in modern day life, but I think it's just going to get worse. I think as a species, we're getting more withdrawn. We're getting more isolationist, and I think that's going to have massive repercussions. So I enjoy conversations. I enjoy sort of getting dialogue two ways and just learning. And I think I think that's definitely helped. I think that has
Yeah.
definitely helped.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you the next question is can you pinpoint any light bulb moments that you've had along the way? I mean, you're if you don't mind me saying so, it feels from the way that you're talking about this that you have sort of spotted things that you think are going to help you if you change them, but it feels like it's very much a live
Yeah.
thing for you that you're not that everyone's got the answers, but you don't necessarily feel that you have found all of the things that are going to help you like kind of be as contented as you can be at the moment.
Um. Yeah. I'm happier at the moment, despite everything. I've I've got a beautiful girlfriend who's supporting me, who's there, and I'd forgotten that I don't know. You can have these emotions, but you can look
Yeah,
for happiness, and I know that's that's probably going to hurt people that down in Texas if they ever listen to this. But you can move on from certain situations and learn and adapt and be a better person. Um, Light bulb moment. I must admit, again, uh, that whole being diagnosed with diabetes and knowing that my health was shockingly bad, my mental health was bad. I made sure I bought every single book on type 2 diabetes. I bought every single, I love cooking. And so I bought not diabetic food books, but just what I had to eat. And I controlled things. It's getting a little bit of that self control in. And again, with say, even conversations like this help. It's those moments of just realizing that you can make changes, but you need everybody needs help along the way. You need an environment where you feel comfortable in to be able to sort of like make changes, to discover uncomfortable truths about yourself, to realize that yeah, some decisions and some choices have had drastic consequences for other people, and accept them. And for me, that's what it is. I've accepted that I've made mistakes. I can't change those mistakes, but I can try and improve things.
yeah,
It's it's just knowing that you can have conversations with people. I love just walking around New York and just uh, just talking to random strangers and knowing even in a huge city like New York where everybody it's got this what is it reputation for being an unfriendly bustling city. I've got to know people in and around neighborhoods just by striking up a conversation, just saying have a good day, enjoy your day, and little things like that just can make or break a day.
yeah,
And knowing that everybody's got shitty days. I see this homeless guy at 5:30 every morning, and for the last several months I've walked past and he's been there in winter, in rain, and he's always there. So a few weeks ago, I went and bought a coffee and just gave him a coffee and sat down just for 2 minutes. We didn't talk, but it was just, it's not me feeling sorry for him or him needing it. It's just that moment of human connection. And I think we do need that. And just opening and just engaging, I think is massively important. It releases endorphins or whatever it is in your system
mm,
just to go, all right, that's been a meaningful day. And you can dwell upon all the harsh words, and those are the ones that tend to stick in your brain. But that feeling of just going, right, it's going to be a good day, just trying to set up a positive mindset whatever the circumstances, if you know you're going to have a bad day, just try and find a couple of positives and work from that. And it's brilliant.
There's
I,
one of the other conversations that we had. Uh, he called my bluff on this with Chris. He is an optimist, and I'm a pessimist. And he said he's a glass half full, and I said I'm a glass half empty, and he said, yeah, but at least you've got a glass.
yes, that's
And
brilliant. Yeah,
to have that ability,
yep,
I would love that. I that's something that I don't say I strive for, um, but I recognize the value that has of being able to say I've got a glass.
yeah. And it's huge. And just
Mm.
finding that little spark of joy in any aspect of the day, just by looking out of a window and just seeing something, or just a little comment, it does bring optimism. And yeah, the world is a very dark and pessimist times at the moment, but there are moments of joy out there. And I think, again, sort of coming back to sort of like that blanket coverage we have on the media of events in the world that are deemed out of our control, is knowing that on the flip side of this, having worked in these conflict zones, what you see is not necessarily what is always there. I had said Afghanistan was tough, but there was great moments of pleasure. The landscape, the people. I remember just sitting down, drinking tea on a rug with these tribal elders who haven't got anything. Their country had been bombed for 30 odd years. They've had all of these things thrust upon them, but yet they showed that welcoming, that hospitality, that want to learn. But yet all we hear is negatives, negatives. And it's the same with yourself. The more you hear, you did this, you did that, you didn't do this, you didn't, and all the negatives, you soak it in. And
Especially if
it's,
it's you that's telling you that. If you
yeah,
are telling yourself that, which is, I think it sounds like you and I are both guilty of doing that, being our own harshest critic.
yeah, oh, definitely. And it's like when you get it from an outside person as well, and then you're just soaking this in, just going, well, you're not worthy of trying to find happiness. You're not a good father. That one, that fucking hurts. Sorry for the
Mm.
language,
I bet
but
it does, yeah.
I got that the other day, and that rankles. Um, but you take it to heart and you overanalyze things, and yeah, it's learning to block some of that inner voice and look for the good. It's hard. So I'm job searching at the moment, and God knows how many applications I've put in, going through the interview process, and then just getting, in one occasion, actually getting the offer letter for a fantastic job, and then it's not been activated because of outside influences. The company hasn't got the go ahead from the person they're contracted to. So you just sat there just going, okay, right. And it's just perpetual. But instead of just sitting there just going, right, what, just taking that beating and beating, it's just like, I take that one and then learn. Take that beating, learn. I think that's part of life's journey. You
Mm.
get these setbacks, but you have to embrace those challenges, those setbacks. And it's either that or darkness.
Mm.
And I don't want that darkness just yet.
Yeah,
I've been into the dark places. I didn't like them. It's like, do
yeah.
you remember sort of when I was at university back in the 90s, Train Spotting came out, and Renton going off on that whole sort of like diatribe. I think that's for anybody above 40, sort of five, is that everybody had that on their walls. And at the bottom is just choose life. It's, I cling to that. And uh, yeah, I want to sort of see the positives. And it's either that or just pure nothingness. And I don't want that yet.
Yeah. That's really important, and I think the train spotting reference is going to resonate
It shows,
massively. As I say, it's the age. It's the age, isn't
yeah,
it? It's the age.
yeah. But
I know what you mean. Not one for the younger listeners, that one, but
no,
it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense.
but
Um,
so chatting with my old university housemate, we we stopped talking for about 10 years. Neither of us can pinpoint why, but those relationships kind of like faded out. A year ago, he was over in New York. So, and before that, we'd just rekindled it. And it was just like being back at uni, just somebody that knew me before I'd gone off to war zones, before we'd both got married, become fathers. And it was just like, right, that was the level of our friendship then. Things have evolved, things have changed. Our parents have got older. We've experienced sort of like different lifestyles, different ways. Our roads have gone different ways. But I've enjoyed reconnecting and just chatting and just going, okay, this was who I was before I checked. And I keep going back to this. I made these decisions. Nobody forced me to go off to go and clear landmines. I made that choice. I made the choice to leave the army before I fulfilled what I wanted to do. Nobody forced me to join. It's my decisions, my repercussions. I, Again, sort of ex-wife told me I don't take responsibility for things. It's like, yeah, I make these choices. I embrace the good choices and the shitty decisions I've made. And yeah, it going back conversations, just communication and just honesty. I think that is going to help us all,
mm.
and just not worrying too much about what others think. Other people's perceptions are purely that.
It feels, and that feels like we've landed at question five. We're there with the, so somebody comes to you today, and maybe they've heard this conversation and what you've been saying is resonating with them. What is the most important thing that they can do? I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
But based on what you've just said, I think I know what you're going to say.
Be honest and open and be willing to hear the good things and the bad things from people. But at the end of the day, it's their perception uh, of who you are. Nobody can tell you who you are. The only person that can is you. And if you're unhappy, look at things and just try and work out whether it's your actions or an environment that you're in, or whether it's, if you're not happy in your job, work out why you're not happy. Is it the job? Is it the people? Is it the environment? Is it the money? 9 times out of 10, people want to change things when they've got to a stage. Well, I know it's me. I got to a stage that I can't be in these environments, and that I allowed too many outside influences so that I affect what was happening to me. God, I'd love to win the mega lottery over here and just go to everybody, quit your bloody jobs and follow what you want to do. Whether it's crumbs. At the moment, I spend a lot of time writing. I've realised that I wrote letters back to my friends when I was overseas, and then I deliberately didn't read them, and then opened them up, and I could see this decline of optimism from when I first got deployed down. I could see a spiral, and 15 years later, reading them, it was just like, oh my god, what the hell was going on? But that was me in that moment,
Mm.
and I know actions that I thought was normal scared the hell out of people. Um, so yeah, just be honest. Just accept that you can't change everything, and cling to something good each day. Just find a little bit of positive out of any moment. What is it? Just find that little bit of delight, whether that's a good cracking cup of tea or grateful for this sip of water. Just find something that just gets you going for the next day. And I must admit, I haven't drunk alcohol now for over 452 days. And it's that whole take one day at a time kind of thing. And it's the same with life. Just take one moment at a time. If yesterday was crappy, okay, it's in the past. Move on. And just try and one thing I've never been good at is trying to plan for the future. I am terrible at saving money. I'm terrible at say I don't have a career. I look at my resume and just go, all right, mine clearance, expeditions. I bought a pub at one stage in my life. I was in sales and marketing, and I'm just there going, okay, this is whoever the hiring manager is just going to go, what the heck is going on here? But I've enjoyed this journey. There's the highs and lows I've loved, and I've learned from them. And so yeah, just go out and just enjoy those moments. We don't know how long this life is. We don't know when it can suddenly come crashing to an end. We had that whole global pandemic where we're all suddenly the world has changed from there. And I think the conversations that that has led to has been phenomenal. And it's building those back up and just keeping those going and finding optimism. Just find that optimism.
That's powerful. It's really powerful. And a salient reminder as well to grumpy buggers like me that
No,
there is
I'm a grumpy bugger. It's unbelievable. But I'm trying
the,
not to be nowadays. And
yeah,
try not
there's
to
always
be.
something positive. Whether or not you can see it is the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of maybe resetting your expectations so that you're not looking for like ridiculous things. You're looking for things that you're trying to see the things that are right in front of you
yes,
that perhaps you're ignoring.
yeah.
Um, which is it is a really important reminder.
But yeah, just have dreams. There's nothing wrong with having dreams still in your 40s. It's
Mm.
that I think that a whole mentality of you have one career, one life, that whole job job stability, that is out the window. The I think the loyalty from companies to employees is gone. I think that whole mindset needs to be changed, and not to a point where it's selfishness, but just follow what you want to do and enjoy the ride. I think, and hope it works out.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you. It,
Thank
it's
you.
been it's been lovely having this chat, getting to understand more about your experiences. And I know that a lot of what you have said today is going to resonate with people and is going to it's gonna help other blokes to recognize some stuff in themselves, I think, and help them make, I guess, more some more intentional choices about what they want to do about it to help improve their situation. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
No, thank you. Yeah, I've enjoyed sort of chatting with you. So we've never met up until what, a couple of weeks ago, but I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and please keep it going. Just get
Thank you.
the yeah. I think it's an incredible thing you do.
Thank you, David. And actually, very neatly on that point, for everybody that has watched through the conversation, listened to the conversation, thank you for doing this. Obviously, these chats are useful when they're seen by people who need to see them. So if you could rattle off all of the things here, like, share,
Yep.
comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, whatever it is, wherever you see it, that will be really, really helpful for helping to spread the conversation further still. And if you have seen this chat, if you have looked at some of the other chats that are on the channel, and you have a story that you would like to tell, to help destigmatize men's mental health just a little bit more, get in touch. All the contact details are in the description of the video, as is a link to David's LinkedIn as well. So if you would like to follow up with David, if you'd like to chat to him, I know he's keen to speak to people as well that might want to sort of benefit from his experiences. Just don't hesitate to get in touch with me, with David, with any of the other guys that you've seen on the chats. All that remains for me to say is once again, thank you, David, for your time. Thank you to everybody that has listened in, and we'll be back again soon with another Good Enough Chat. Take care.